Hello y'all, welcome to South Central LA. This is George Washington Carver Middle School. This community is very rich with both Latin and Black community members. And this space is powerful because it's actually one of few of the green spaces that we have in South LA. I've been in this space for the last 3 years. I've been welcomed as one of the first community members in this space. Been lucky enough to develop partnerships with existing organizations that are here now, which is Root Down LA and LA Compost. And we're here to work along the school to provide services for the students. I love to always tell the students that this is their garden and we're certainly here to maintain it. So that's I express that to all the community members as well. All right, yeah, let's go. We're here to talk about the 3-bin system that we have. It's a system that we use. It's really nice. To be honest, it's really expensive too. So it's not one of my favorite places or ways to compost just because of the cost. But it's worth it. It's a very beautiful structure. It's used very well for what it needs to be used for. If you guys see here, we have food scraps actually filled up all the way to the top. And this is actually our open bin. So this is the bin where the food scraps are being collected and accumulated. This here tension string is very important, and I'll show you my mistake. This is a big thing that happens if there's not enough tension that's being holding the wire. The food scraps tend to throw out their weight. So this here, there's some wiggle room. And it happens that these guys tend to fall out when there's wiggle room. So we'd always want to have this tension wire tight, especially when there's food scraps. It's very important. A lot of people ask why this is important. Let me just explain to you. Holds in the tension from going out and warping out. If you don't, you have slabs are sticking out like that. Very importantly, when we started this bin, we had to level the ground. It was graded. It's very important to have it being graded as best as you can, because if you don't, with time and the weight, the bin tends to warp to one side and then sink down. You have uneven pile, then you have the bin kind of warping and kind of falling apart with time. So you always want to make sure that you always have a level platform that you're putting this on top of it. We actually use pavers. We use about 48 pavers for the area underneath the bin, and it fits pretty good. So this bin is actually designed to take about 12,000 pounds of food each chamber. So this one, of course, more or less, you can also take into account that food scraps tend to break down and you can add more. So you can add more than 12,000. I've gotten away with like 15, but it's just because over time I keep stacking and aerating the material. Like I said, this is the open chamber. This is where the chamber that all the food scraps get added. Something very interesting that we started to do with our designs of the bins is actually setting this brace here. This brace really helps with the bin staying up and nobody getting hit in the head. Very important. These lids are very heavy, and it's happened when people got hit in the head because they accidentally moved something, a pitchfork a certain way, and it releases whatever is holding it. So with all future designs, we're going to make sure that all our 3 bins have a brace that can be held on. We also have these really cool posts that actually can be put in if you need a little more support on the bin. There's incisions that are made, so the bin kind of holds in. There you go. Actually just had some food scraps given to us by one of our neighbors, and that's what you see there, some of the apples. So the second chamber is very much cooking. It's a very much phase that's already hot and going, and that's why we say it's cooking. You never want to cross-contaminate. You never want to add too much of something when it's already been cooking. And this kind of wants to stay within itself. What we regularly do every week is we take everything out, we aerate, we mix it in, and we relayer inside this bin, and we hydrate. Very important is to hydrate and make sure that pile is nice and moist so the activity of the compost can stay active. Key is aerating at least once a week or every other week. You ideally want to keep the pile active so the composition can stay active and through the pile. This last chamber here is where we have our curing material, and at the moment it's actually empty because all our curing piles are behind you guys, chilling in the shade. It's easier for the compost to hang out in the shade, it dries out less, and the microbes can continue the decomposition process through the curing process. So this bin can fill up if we have our regular people dropping off, which is our partner compostable, and can fill up in one trip. If the community members, which is a co-op, which is this site, what this site is, this is a co-op site where co-op members can come and drop off from the community. There's actually trash cans outside filled with sawdust and empty trash can where they can lay their material. So as long as they bring material, as fast as they do that, this is as fast as it's gonna fill up. So I estimate maybe a month that it takes to fill up to what it is right now. And the process that continues usually takes about 3 months to be end result, which is the product behind you. And this here, once it's in the curing phase, it still has a month and a half to stabilize those temperatures because it's still 100, over 100, and once is under 100, you can start using that compost.
Are the trash cans like locked or out in the street? Or?
Trash cans are locked with a combo. The way that we have co-op members join is we ask them to email us at join LA Compost, and then that way we can have give them instructions, give them the code, and the do and the don'ts that you shouldn't be adding to your compost. Very important because there's a little bit of confusions what you can compost. You know, people kind of sometimes make assumptions, so sometimes we get a whole turkey if we don't tell people we don't take meats or dairies or breads. So it's educational part as well. That's why we ask people to make sure that they email us and they get that information from us before they drop off. Anybody else?
You said no bread?
We don't recommend it just because I've had people get excited and they'll literally bring a loaf of sourdough bread that's still good, just dump it in the pile. And also a large amount of the bread, the bacteria kind of unbalances the compost. You never want to have a ratio of like 20 pounds of bread to what you're including. Of course, if you have a large bowl, you can definitely cook breads, meats, and dairies, but I always recommend that when you're a more experienced composter, just so you feel more comfortable what's happening. I personally can tell you that I've composted many carcasses and it's fine. The bones are gone within a couple weeks, really fast. It's not hard. I personally breed rabbits, and when I butcher my rabbits, I compost the excess that I don't want to use. And that stuff really goes really quick and high in nutrients and minerals as well. Yeah.
So the key factor in that composting bread or not is just whether you can hold the temperature for
Ratios.
a certain time?
Ratios are a big thing. Make sure that you have enough diverse material that you can include the bread. You can't just decompose 20 pounds of bread within itself. Yeah. It just takes forever. It's not gonna happen. I've attempted to decompose about 1,000 pounds of onions with pines. It just doesn't happen. It just doesn't happen. You have to introduce diverse ingredients for it to actually break down.
Basically what we do is we feed 5 days a week, we harvest on the 6th day, and we rest on the 7th day and give the worms an opportunity to eat any of the food or processed material which they didn't have an opportunity to say it was too hot, too dry, too wet, too whatever for the rest of the week. And this can make 2 gallons of vermicompost, or actually poop, worm poop, in a week, and up to 10 gallons a month. But if you have and support a population of 100 pounds of worms, so if you've got really your full population in here, it could be eating, and you're making smoothies, and you're freezing your material, you can get this bin to process 100 pounds a day, not a week. But as after 6 months of building up your worm population, we only start with 30 pounds because they procreate so quickly. And really quick difference, the stuff on the top is food waste with coconut coir. The stuff in the middle is vermicompost. That's where it's half decomposed food and worm poop. The stuff on the bottom is 100% castings. This is 100% poop. So if someone's trying to sell you vermicompost, do know that it's usually pre-processed materials mixed with worm castings. It's not full castings. You need to look for castings or poop, those 2 words, and then you're gonna get the full benefit out of it. And after the worms eat it, this is HDP, 100% post-consumer recycled plastic and recyclable, but it doesn't have any friction or static on it. So as that material gets thicker and more like gel-like, it will slide down towards the bottom of the machine. And then what we're gonna do is go ahead and freewheel one side of the hand winches and engage the other. And the concept that's happening here is we have a bar, a really thin bar, that is in a harvesting track system, so it can't. It's attached to 2 cables and 2 hand winches. We're gonna freewheel one side and engage the other side. And then you just crank this little cheese slicer back and forth. And anybody that wants to crank, Ariana, go for it. Anybody that wants to watch, look under the bin. Sure, of course. And so, so you're processing about 100 pounds of material a week, and you're getting a harvest of 2 gallons a week. So it could be 10 gallons a month, which sounds like so little compared to a big windrow or a compost pile. But the thing is that you can sell a quart of castings for 20 bucks because they are so potent and gardeners swear by them. And they can make worm tea and actually use a quart to maybe fertilize an entire quarter acre of land. So the pound per price, but the bang for buck is really where the value is in vermicomposting.
You said that these come in different sizes, like
Yeah, because they're modular. You can build them in any dimensions you want. We've built them as small as 1 foot wide and 15 feet long to fit under a staircase back in a Boys and Girls Club. We've built them 4 feet wide and 8 feet long for needing a certain processing capacity but not having the length space. But this is our general model for community garden size, school, education. It's 5 feet long, 2.5 feet wide. But then we do work in an on-farm application where we've built them up to 20 feet long. But you can, like I said, this is not patentable. This is a very DIY. You can very much build these yourselves. I'm not sitting here trying to give a business pitch at all. There's just not a lot of people out there that are DIY or community gardeners that have the time to find all of the materials. So that's why we do it. It's like the only thing that's holding you back is that you don't have a compost bin. Here, let us build you a compost bin and make it really efficient, easy, clean. This meets most city regulations because it's a locked bin. So it's a locked waste receptacle. People can't get into it after hours. It's off the ground and it's in vessel and it causes no wastewater. So you can literally put these in alleyways and the city won't say anything. So it's more, that's why we went with this design, is to help people who want to manage their own waste on site get through urban regulations and local zoning and planning, which is just be so hard when you start talking about putting compost piles on the ground.